back to Agates Explained with Josh. Today we are talking about pseudomorph agates. A pseudomorph means a replacement of one mineral by another mineral. In this case we have agates from some more famous locations where pseudomorphs very regularly happen, but also from some locations where it really rarely just occurs. And one of the most famous locations for pseudomorphs are the agates from Turkey. Here you can see one of the Turkish agate pseudomorphs, which really easily describes the process of this piece. This is actually a recut. I have the other half in the museum in the Terra Mineralia right now, and here you can see the actual origin of the pseudomorph spray was right about here, and then this is already like the kind of cross section of the pseudomorph. But you can see every single of these former crystals has been agatized again, so it has been replaced with agate after, in this case, anhydrite crystals. That is the most common pseudomorph from Turkey, is replacement after anhydrite. I will also talk about paramorphs because it's kind of the same construct, but instead of a replacement it means like kind of an erosion of the original crystal, and instead of like being filled in with agate again, it will just leave an empty space. I hope you can see it in the video as well, but I have another example which perfectly describes this kind of phenomenon. This is also a piece from Turkey. Crazy lace agates, pretty much naturally every crazy lace agate is formed after some kind of pseudomorph, and sometimes you will see it very easily by seeing the crystal structure. Like in this piece you can really see how the crystal originally formed, and I believe in crazy lace agates the pseudomorphs have happened after calcite in most of the cases. And this is actually a combination of a pseudomorph and a paramorph, because from the bottom here you can see that there's a crystal layer which already has this kind of triangular shape. On top of that there's another crystal that formed over this one, and on the very top you can see it left the very tip of the crystal point here. But here it is a paramorph on the top, it's a pseudomorph at the bottom, because here it has not been refilled with agate but only left the empty void. So this is actually a really cool piece showing the combination of paramorph and pseudomorph in one specimen. Another place where we see a lot of pseudomorphs is actually from Mozambique. These are the worldwide known as Wazi agates, and they sometimes have tubes, sometimes they have really clear crystal structures, but they're usually very thin crystals, not like pseudomorph sprays, but coming from all kind of different directions within the hollow piece, and then later it's entirely been refilled with agate. And this is kind of funny because it has like a cat kind of figure inside of the stone as well. I cut this one last year and it's one of my favorite pieces of this Wazi location that I cut in the entire last year. We also have places where pseudomorphs don't occur that commonly, and one of these locations are the Moctezuma agates from Mexico. So a lot of times the pseudomorphs will only be filled with some kind of brown material, which is like a carbonate, and it only rarely, like in this piece, is like entirely agatized. It doesn't have like a kind of really sharp contrast like, for example, in the Turkish agates I've been showing earlier, but you can see the fine kind of needles which have formed in this specimen, and in this case it was probably after aragonite, which also creates the fantastic pseudomorph agates you can see in the world famous Koyamito agates, for example. And one of the highlight pieces I have from the Koyamito location is also currently exhibited in the Terra Mineralia in the special exhibition. Another almost not at all known location is the location Ijevan in Armenia. And here, even from the outside, sometimes you can see that a pseudomorph will be inside of the stone. So when I cut agates, I especially look for any signs that could create a pseudomorph, like a crystallization point that I can spot from the outside. And then if I have the choice to cut it, I will cut right through the center of the crystallization point to hit like the very center of the explosion-like looking feature which creates this pseudomorph. And here you can see it has this really clear chalcedony, and the pseudomorph coming from the backside of the stone and like just shooting inside of the specimen, looking like a firework explosion. This is a Laguna agate from Mexico, and this is probably, I would say, one of the rarest features to get in Laguna agates. I have hardly seen any Laguna agates with pseudomorphs at all, so this must have been a huge surprise for the person who cut it. And here you can see it's got this really wild setup of pseudomorphs going in all kinds of different directions, and I don't even know after what kind of crystal it formed, because it's definitely not aragonite. Judging after the shape, it might be some kind of barite sheets, maybe, but I'm really just guessing here. And another piece where pseudomorphs are just happening really rarely are the Malawi agates, and here you can see it's just perfectly been hit in the right layer where the pseudomorph occurred. And actually, this is one of the very first Malawi agates that I've owned. It was even before the first time I traveled to Malawi personally. It was a very old stock rough stone that I got from another dealer, and I could already see the pseudomorph shining through this specimen. So I actually ground on this myself. This was back in the time when I was doing the grinding and polishing partially myself, and I think it turned out beautifully with this contrast of red banding and the perfectly straight white growing pseudomorph in the center of this piece, like splitting the agate almost in like two different agates in one. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. This was me explaining pseudomorph agates from different countries in the world. There's plenty more, and also some I left out right now. For example, the Kuemito agate, I will blend in the one spectacular piece we have in the exhibit case at the museum right now. It's a very rare and interesting and collectible feature. Thanks for watching.